Maggie, Robert, and Outer Maria took a trip to do some volunteer work in Lafourche, Haiti in March 2012. For several weeks leading up to our trip, we collected donations of money, clothes, and toys from family, friends, and coworkers. This is Maggie and Robert on Haitian Flag Color Day at work. And this is Outer Maria separating some of the clothing donations by age and gender. We were totally blown away by the generosity of the donations and collected over $3,000. Our flight from Miami landed in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince is a dusty, chaotic place that's an assault on the senses for many foreign travelers. As you can see from these pictures, the city is still struggling to rebuild after the devastating January 2010 earthquake. From Port-au-Prince, we made a 6-hour drive to the small village of Lafourche. On the outskirts of Port-au-Prince, you can still see where many of the earthquake survivors who lost their homes are living in tents. The road to Lafourche is cut off by the Ba River, which has no bridge. You can drive through the 50 yards of river if you have a vehicle, and the water level is low enough. But very few people have cars, so they usually wade to the other side or pay for someone to carry them over. Maggie was more brave than Robert and Outer Maria. As you can see, in many places the river is set in idyllic, gorgeous countryside. But when it rains, it can isolate villages like Lafourche for a long time until the water subsides. After crossing the river, it's about a 2-mile walk or ride along the river's edge to the complex in Lafourche, where we stayed. This is a picture of the complex from a distance as you approach. The complex is crude and consists of a church and a 2-story structure with about 6 rooms, which could be used as bedrooms, offices, or storage. There's a tall wall surrounding the property and a good-sized courtyard. The man standing in this photo is Jean-Paul. He grew up in Lafourche and now lives in Miami. He is the person who started the initiative to go back to try to assist his native village. Almost all of the money for these projects has come directly out of Jean-Paul's pocket. He started the church as a community gathering place, and the main focus now is to try to construct a school building next to the main structure. And as you can see, the school has been started, but it's a long way from completion. Not having a school building has not stopped the community from educating its children. As you can see, Jean-Paul and the other community leaders use every room available to make school possible for over 200 kids. Our first day there was to get to know the children, their teachers, and other community leaders. Everyone we met was very humble, and the children took great pride in being able to go to school. Conditions are obviously very rudimentary, but despite being desperately poor, the children are expected to arrive at school clean, washed, and in their uniforms.
Combien d'élèves il y a dans l'alphabet français?
Alphabet français ABC.
Qui sont?
A, B, C, D, E, F.
As you can see, there's no electric lights for the children, but being exposed to the sunlight has its own problems. For example, this poor class of the older children is exposed to the hot sun on their backs all morning. This is the school's director, Keenan. In this picture, he had just presented him with a donation of books in Haitian Creole. And despite being the director of the school in charge of 7 other professors, he only receives a salary of about $50 a month. The other professors receive about $35. And this is a view from the top of the church's roof. That first morning, we distributed tickets to each student so they could be brought home to their parents so that each family could come back the next day to pick up some food. We also delivered toys and clothes to the children that morning. It brought a lot of smiles and was fun for everyone. Our $3,000 in donations allowed us to buy 2,200 pounds of rice, 800 pounds of beans, and more than 300 gallons of cooking oil. It was all shipped to Lafourche prior to our arrival. Most of the rest of the day was spent dividing the food into individual family portions.
Let me see it. Okay, so that's one.
There was already one in this bag.
Okay, that's 2.
2.
Wow.
The bag.
All right.
And I tie it.
Good.
Food distribution was to begin at 9 a.m. the next day. And that next morning, the line started early, and people holding the approximately 200 tickets distributed the previous day were served first. Each family was given a bag of rice, a bag of beans, and 200 milliliters of oil. After the students' families were served, we distributed approximately 160 additional families on a first-come, first-served basis. Some preference was given to the elderly or sick individuals. And as you can see, there were a lot of desperate people trying to obtain food for themselves and their families. But despite this video at the front gate, there really wasn't much of a crowd control issue. Unfortunately, there is always more need than food. But speaking of food, we had simple but delicious meals cooked by a very, very kind-hearted and talented local women. Much of the food and snacks we ate centered around the fruits and vegetables grown all throughout the region. When in Rome, or in this case Haiti, do as the Haitians do. We had also asked if it might be possible to visit some of the villagers' homes, and many of them humbly and graciously honored our request. Though they live in a lush tropical landscape with breathtaking views, most of their homes are nothing more than unfinished concrete blocks and a tin roof. Some only have cardboard or blankets for walls and dirt floors. In contrast to some of the homes in the village, we stayed in relative comfort. Though there was no running water or electricity in the day, the complex runs a generator for a few hours each evening. Finally, here's a random collection of some of the other sites during our trip.
Depuis moi tout petit, c'est vous-même que moi t'ai choisi. Son belle mélodie qui fait me sentir mon paradis. Tant pis, où t'es moi l'enfrédit. Tant